What's up, friends? Welcome back to Rooted Wisconsin, where we are dedicated to authentically sharing the stories of the people who drive Wisconsin culture and make this a fantastic place to be. We'll start off this show like we do everyone, thanking you. Thank you for watching, listening, subscribing, likes on social media. However you engage with our content, you're the reason we exist, and we really appreciate you taking the time to even click that subscribe button. You don't have to. We know that, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate you engaging with our content. So thank you. As we get started with another show, also, of course, have to let you know, Rooted Wisconsin brought to you by Riverside Pizzeria. You can find them in Ashwaubenon in Wisconsin. And, of course, the home of Riverside Pizza up in Iron River is where it was all born, and now brought to Ashwaubenon and probably a neighborhood near you sometime in the future. So right now, when you're in Green Bay, you have to stop and get Riverside. And hopefully it'll be a little bit closer to wherever your door is in Wisconsin. So thank you for Ryan and the team, great sponsors of the show. And you can check out his show a few episodes back as well if you want to hear the story about how Riverside made it to Wisconsin. With that, that's about, and a huge thanks to the folks at Discover Green Bay for the studio space that we're standing in the shadows of Lambeau and Cabela's, depending where the sun is, right off of Lombardi in Green Bay. So happy to be here too. And that brings us to another show to get started. Christiana Trapani.
Yes.
Did perfect. I get it right?
You got
time?
it right, yeah. Perfect.
Yes. Owner, and I think your email signature says Chief Candle Expert?
Lover.
Yeah,
but
Chief Candle Lover.
Yeah, that works too. Yeah.
Of the Door County Candle Company.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I've kind of been on and off watching. A lot of people have been on and off watching your story for the last few years. So I'm really excited to chat and just kind of, learn about you. That's what we do on Rooted Wisconsin.
Love
So I guess first, how long have you owned Door County Candle Company? You purchased it, right?
Right. Yeah. It'll be 3 years on June 2nd. So it's still fairly new in the grand scheme. But yeah, it'll be 3 years in June.
Yeah. 3 fast years, probably?
Yes. 3 years that it went by so fast. I sometimes don't remember it all.
I bet. It had to be a whirlwind at times.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll get there. Let's back up a little bit, though. I like to start off, what's the story up till then? How did you, you're an Oshkosh grad, I know that. Did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur? What started at college? What were you thinking at that time?
Yeah, so no, didn't expect any of this. So in college, I studied communication and minored in radio, TV, film. I knew I liked comm and marketing, but that's about it. Like when I went to college, I thought maybe nursing, then I realized I hated science and math, so that wasn't going to work. And then I thought journalism, and I jumped a lot, but comm kind of stuck with me. So I studied comm and RTF, and then my senior year, I interned at a marketing agency at the end of my junior and senior year of college, which was great, but didn't know what I wanted to do after that. So I last minute decided to apply to grad school. Like super last minute, as in like my end of first semester of senior year. I was like, I have 2 weeks to figure this out and take the GRE and apply to the one school I wanted to go to. So I did that. And then I went to Marquette for digital communication strategies for my master's, which was super fun. I loved it. And then from there, I worked for a small little agency, did marketing, content, strategy, SEO, kind of all that stuff. And then from there, I worked at a B2B e-commerce software company, learned a lot, but did not like that world, I guess. It wasn't like fun enough for me. It wasn't creative enough. And it's kind of like there's one day I remember specifically I was driving to work. It was in Milwaukee, and I was stuck in the endless traffic and an hour to get 15 miles. And I remember I was just sitting and I thought to myself, I was like, this can't be my life. I don't want this to be my life. This is not what I want to do with my life. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it wasn't that. And so, COVID hit, right? And so then we went to work from home. So I opened a different business. I still have it. It's called Door County Delivered. It's a gift box. So it's all local products to support local businesses. So I was doing that, and I was wholesaling candles from Door County Candle Company. And the second time I met the owner of the candle company, I was picking up an order of cherry candles, and it was like this rainy day in October. He walked me to the car and he just looked at me and he's like, I want to retire, and do you want to potentially buy the business? And I'm like, yeah, I think it sounds great. And I was like, I have talked to my husband. This is a big decision, but yeah, I mean, that's how it happened. I wasn't like a passionate candle maker. I had no business experience. I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I still, like, when I say it, I'm like, oh, I guess I am one. But like, I never pictured myself being that ever, like never my wildest dream. So it's kind of funny how it happened. But now I couldn't picture doing or being anything else.
Yeah. On the second day you knew him or you met him.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. He said he's like, I felt it in you and I just didn't. He's like, I'd rather sell it, or I'd rather close the doors than sell it to the wrong person. And I was like, wow, well, thanks, Mike. So
That's
he's
amazing.
been awesome. Yeah. He's a really cool person.
That's one that immediately, that's what I want to dig into. Have you had conversations afterwards about why you? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've asked him and he literally just said, I felt it. I just saw something in you and knew it was right. And I was like, wow. I mean, me and my husband, our motto is trust your gut. Like that is what we go by. And we've had situations in the past where we haven't trusted our gut and it has, played out negatively. Yeah. So since then we're very much trust your gut kind of people. And so with him, I'm like, yeah, I feel that, but it's still really cool.
Yeah. Life's happenstance like that is just crazy, isn't it? How things happen. Like you mentioned how many people have been in the scenario of the start of that journey, like maybe nursing, maybe this, like I was a maybe engineer one time. And then I was like, no, I am not, Yeah. So and then just how the wandering path to get you somewhere happens.
Yeah.
So do you remember how that conversation went, that first conversation when you went home and talked to your husband?
Yeah. So,
and said, let's buy a candle company.
I was at the grocery store. I remember I was like in the produce section and I was just going to call him and tell him, and as he was traveling for work, and I was like, so really cool thing just happened. And like, I really want to do it. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, it sounds great. Like, let's get the paperwork and the details and look into it. He was so just like chill. He's like, yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, great. Perfect.
Awesome. Well, so, that probably starts once you make the decision, it starts this is real as you start diving into first thing to solve, second thing to solve. Yeah. What was that first moment, do you remember, of like, wow, this is like
panic or happy?
Yeah. Well, both maybe, right?
Well,
because it's an up and down.
Oh my
game.
gosh. Yeah. Well, I would say like the first day, like I remember working, like when it was mine, like we came back from the bank after signing everything and I changed into my like work clothes and I was at the counter and I was like, oh my gosh, this is mine now. Like, this is mine. Like, that was so cool. Like, that was amazing. But yeah, like super up and down. I mean, like I remember my first panic day. It was November 1st. And
you remember the date?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember the day because he used to not be open year round. He was open full time from like Memorial Day to October till Halloween. And then he went to just weekends starting November to May. And I remember thinking, I was like, oh, like I'm going to be open every day. It's going to be fine. Like people are going to come in every single day. It's not going to be a big deal. And November 1, like no one came. Like nobody came to the store. I was literally like, I remember being at the door and I'm like, where are the people? And I remember thinking like, what have I just done? Like I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like I have this whole business. No one's here. And I like realized like, okay, like this wasn't a full-time gig before, like the business. So like, I'm like, oh God, like I need to, market. There's a lot of stuff, right? We had to like explain that we're open and there was no email list. He didn't have an email list. He didn't really have a website. So like that in itself, I didn't do much Facebook marketing. So I was like, oh my God. So that was sheer panic. I mean, intense panic.
Yeah. So his business was all built on probably like traditional marketing strategies and just like people in the geographic proximity.
100%. That was it. And I wanted to take it into year round and, saying we're open, but also online e-commerce. And that I think I underestimated that. Oh yeah, I need to like build that from the ground up. Like I need to get that.
Yeah. How much that conversation was had before actually, like between him asking you if you wanted to buy it and then you signing on the dotted line, how much of the conversation was had about like strategy and like the handoff? Was there much or?
It was enough that like I knew there was no email list. I knew they weren't active on Facebook. I knew they didn't have it. They weren't active on Instagram. I knew that was not really like their strategy. I knew like what worked for him and how the certain, holidays were really busy and that kind of stuff. But, so, I mean, I was definitely prepared, and I kind of honed in on like my experience with marketing and helping different little businesses, gain those subscribers. But when it's yours, it's like, oh gosh, okay, like we really got to hit this like fast. I mean, like the first thing I did was print a piece of paper at the counter and just say, sign up for our newsletter. That was like first thing, like just hand sign up, like, and from there. But yeah, I mean, like, and the site was older that he had, it was much older. And so, we rebuilt that ourselves, which later when we get into the Ukraine candle story, if we get into that, it crashed like a bajillion times because we built it not knowing there's gonna be traffic, like heavy traffic, but we built the site and we really tried to like start like growing that, but it was hard. I mean, it was very hard to get a solid customer base subscribed and to follow you on Facebook. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's work. And is that background that had to give you some confidence in purchasing the business, right?
It did, yeah.
Knowing that you can produce some results.
Yes, because I immediately was like, okay, I can do this and this and this, and I know like I can do this. I know how to work. At that time I did MailChimp, but it's like at the time I knew a bunch of things and I was like, I can for sure, like I can do this. But yeah.
I can imagine that sobering feeling on November 1st.
Oh my gosh.
When 0 people come in the store. And it makes sense, right? Nobody probably knew you were open yet.
Exactly.
They weren't used to it. But then it's like that's the light shining of I got some work to do.
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, like I just bought this business and no one's here. Like I got to get to work stat.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm assuming in that scenario, you're probably learning how to make the candles too, right?
Yeah. So what worked out really well was from the time we talked to buying it, I worked for him. Like undercover, if you will. No one knew I was like going to buy it. He wanted me to make sure I loved the business and everything about it. So I worked for like 6 months as a candle maker, retail store, helped in ordering. It was great. So all the hours I worked, we ended up just swapping, and he worked for me when I bought it. So we just like swapped it out. He helped me out, mentor me, answer questions. So I learned to make candles in those 6 months. And then my husband learned by just watching me make candles, and then the business stuff kind of just, it just happened. But it was really helpful because I had those 6 months with him, and then with him, after I bought it, which was super helpful.
Yeah, that's super valuable.
Very, very
hard to replace that, right? Kind of why I asked about how many conversations were had, because on that November 1st, if there weren't many, it's like, oh my goodness, I wish I would have thought about this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was sobering.
Yeah. So are you from the Door County area? Originally? Okay.
So I was born in Illinois, but we moved to Door County when I was in 3rd grade. So all my memories are really from Door County.
Yeah, Door County's home.
Yeah, Door County's home, for sure.
Nice. So through college, you end up buying this business, and let's jump right into it. I mean, you mentioned the Ukraine candle story earlier. How did that come about? I know about some ties. I'd like to hear about that too. How does that happen? Because that was massive.
Oh my gosh, that was insane. So yeah, I am 100% Ukrainian. So both my parents, I'm 2nd generation. So my grandparents, both sets are from Ukraine. It was my first language growing up. So very much like we're very, very Ukrainian. We still speak it, as we call it Ukrainian-English. It'll be English and Ukrainian mixture. But very like still very, into the culture, and I really care about, where I came from. And so we had actually done a Ukraine candle for a Ukrainian Catholic school in Chicago where my parents got married, and we know, just very connected to that school. So we made a candle for them for a fundraiser before the war broke out. So we had a candle. It's actually funny because before that candle, we actually made a candle for Marquette. We, for the provost that we're very close with, made him for gifts for the faculty. So then we met with the school, and as we were talking, I went and printed a label that said Ukraine and slapped it behind the Marquette candle. And I said, oh, we have a Ukraine candle. And Nick's like, we do? And I was like, yeah. And like the back of it said like, ring out Ahoya, and the front said Ukraine. And so we're like, okay, cool. We have a Ukraine candle, I guess. So we made that candle for them. They sold, maybe like 20. It was fine. And then we had like 7 extra that we had from that fundraiser. The war happened in February, very intense, obviously. We were talking to my family in Ukraine when it happened, and it was horribly sobering, and, hearing them cry, and it was just horrible. The videos they sent of the bombs, and it was, at that moment we're like, oh, I need to do something. My grandma was reliving war when she was a kid, and it was all very it was intense. So I was like, okay, well, we have to do something. So why, and we talked, and Nick and I are like, well, we have this Ukraine candle already. Why don't we, put it on the site, and we'll donate all the profits to Razom, which is a nonprofit that I had gotten a lot of, I did a lot of research from, and a lot of my family recommended it. I did my research. I'm like, they're great, perfect, vetted them. So launched, we went to the shop the next day, and I asked Nick to record a video of me, and I remember he's like, you're not like raw enough, like just take your phone and go on back and just take a video and be honest. And because it was very like scripted, and again, like this podcast, not like, that's not, you don't want it to be scripted, you want it to be natural. And so he's like, go and re-record it and just talk to people. So I did that, and I posted this video and just explained that we had this candle and our hopes are to raise money. And so I did that. I posted it, put my phone away, went back to the shop with no people because it was February and it was dead. There was no one in the store. Nick and I were starting a painting project. We started taping the walls up. Our employee Karen was just like, all right, well, I'll just, I'll tidy up because again, it was dead. And I remember my phone started just going crazy, and I was like, okay, wow, orders were coming in and the video was getting shared. And 10 minutes later I had someone come in for a candle, and I was like, the Ukraine candle? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And
they came into the store for the Ukraine candle.
Yeah, they saw, we just saw it on Facebook. We were driving by, and I was like, oh, cool. And so in an hour, we had a bunch of people come in the store, and the 7 candles I had were all gone. And I remember my coworker, Karen's like, you need to start making these candles now. And we were at 300 orders in a snap. And for the record, we weren't getting online orders before this. It was very slow. And I mean, by the evening we had 500 candles to make, and
in one day.
Yeah. And Nick and I were like, what is happening? And come Monday it was 3,000. And it was just, it was so wild watching the numbers. And Monday we got calls from Chicago, ABC Chicago, and it was just progressively from there. The first week on Tuesday, we had 4 news crews in the production area in our very, very small shop, all trying to get footage and interviews. I'm like, what is going on? It was wild. I mean, that was the first week. And then the second week, we had people coming to the store if we were open. We had 50 people in line, through our parking lot waiting to get in, faces in the window. And we were as a team whoa, what is happening? And we were selling out within 5 minutes of opening the store. People were coming in, and we were selling out immediately. And it was when I think it was 2 to 3 weeks in, we got a call from David Muir, World News of David Muir, and they couldn't get a hold of us because our shop phone was permanently ringing. You couldn't pick them up, which wasn't possible. And so they called the coffee company next door, and they came back with a note on a napkin that said World News called, not a joke, please call them back. And I was like, okay. And so I heard David Muir, and I was like, who's David? And I was like, I couldn't put a face. I was so overwhelmed. So I called the producers, hey, can you shoot a video in an hour and send it to us? We're going to air this tonight on World News. And I'm like, okay. And I left, left the bathroom, because that's the only place I could talk on the phone and quiet was our little bathroom. And I was like, yeah, some guy named David.
That's amazing.
And they're like, some guy named David, like that's David Muir. I'm like, oh, like that one is the one I'm going to, and like, I was like, oh my God. And so recorded the video, sent it. And like that night they aired us and we got like 6,000 orders from that. And our site crashed within like 2 seconds of being on the air. Then the next day they aired us again as like an update that we had like, 4,000 voicemails left and our site crashed. And like we had raised at that point $125,000 and like it was wild. So that was very big. I mean, that propelled us. We also were on PBS NewsHour, which we didn't find out until like a half hour before it aired we were going to be on it. And that was insane. I mean, that was wild. And all that coverage made it was just insane. We were like hovering at like 40,000 orders and like we could not get below 40,000 orders. Like we were just like, we were shipping and, at the time, like we didn't have a method. We didn't have to ship. So like we were taking bubble wrap and paper and wrapping it up and putting them in boxes. And like the first few days we had like, we sent like 60 candles and we're like, this isn't going to work. Like we have so many candles to ship. Like we need to figure it out. So we worked with some awesome people like up in Green Bay, Great Northern. They jumped in there. They do a corrugate and they helped make a box, especially for our Ukraine candle. Like all these people jumped in to help us. And like, we're like, we need help stat. Like it was crazy. So we learned a lot on the fly. Door County Coffee Company, our neighbors, they housed like 30 pallets for us at a crack of like corrugate. Cause like we didn't have the space. We did not have space. The whole outside of our building was full of pallets, was full of jars and wicks and it was just covered with pallets. And we had to shrink our store significantly. We brought the bookshelves in. We shrunk our retail space by like 60%. We had to make room for packing and shipping. We had volunteers just walking in like, how can we help? What can we do? And we had like hundreds of people just coming in to help clean candles and label them and pack them because they're like, you need the help. Like we're here to help. So like the community was incredible. They showed up from day one. Mike, the old owner, called me the next day and he's like, do you need help? And before he could finish, I was like, yes, when can you be here? He's like, I'm ready on my way and I have my lunch packed. I'm coming. Like, so the community and like just showed up. It was incredible. And like our family and it was insane. It was an incredible experience. I don't remember a lot of it, honestly, because it was like every day was just like, how are we going to do this? We hired a night shift because we couldn't do it. We at first could only make like 250 a day, the candles. We got to 1,500 at our max. Supply chain was a big thing. I mean, like our vendors were like, we want to help, but like, just understand, like you never used to order this much. So like, we couldn't have forecasted this. And we're like, same. So we know. So it was wild. It was wild. We ended up raising $1 million through the candles. We're still selling them, but yeah, I mean that like 2022, it was that. I mean, it was just, we did not sleep. We did not really eat much. It was just get in, make candles, come home, go to bed, do it again. Mm-hmm. It was wild.
I can't imagine. I remember thinking about that in the scenario, like watching it play out, like thinking about fulfillment, like how are you going to make it happen?
Yeah. And we didn't have the systems for it. Our website, again, literally crashed all the time. It was constantly crashing. Because we were not prepared. We built it on, we built it for a small, for small traffic and figured eventually we can grow into something bigger. But I mean, we were not prepared and we didn't think that was going to happen. So, yeah, it was wild.
No one can forecast.
No.
It's unbelievable.
Unforecastable.
Yeah. So I would guess though, a couple things I want to talk about in there. One, continuing on the business aspect first, I would guess that was like, so how long was that after you bought it?
I bought it in June of 21 and then February of 22. So it wasn't that long after.
Less than a year.
Oh, yeah.
Significantly less than a year.
Yeah.
So one, that was probably a crash course in like everything in the business very quickly.
Yes.
Like where you need to scale, what you need to do. Yeah. Probably vendors you hadn't even talked to yet because you had enough supply for a little while that then you need to talk to everybody immediately.
Yes. it was, I mean, insane. And like Nick really was handling the supply chain, but like, I remember this one vendor we only use for wax now was incredible. Like our vendor at the time was like, sorry, I can only give you a pallet. And we needed like a pallet, like an hour. Like we needed a lot of pallets. They're like, well, sorry, we can't help you. And, you know, we called all these people and they're like, sorry, no, we can give you a pallet. And we're like, what are we going to do? And Nick found this guy on Google, and he's been like our go-to wax supplier. And he was like, whatever you need, I'll help you. And like, he just was like, he was amazing from the start. And he's like, I'm going to make sure you get the wax you need. And like, he's the only person we'll work with now, because like he from the start was like, no, like, I'm here to help you. Like our glass supplier, you know, he made it happen. At one point, he ran out because we bought all his whole supply out, and we were waiting for a production run, and we bought out every single 16-ounce apothecary jar in the country, because like we went on every single site, bought everything out, and we bought everyone out. And just waiting for the next run. And we were getting calls, people asking to like buy our glass because they needed it. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but like we need every single piece of this apothecary jar for Ukraine candle. But like it was wild. I mean, and we met a lot of new vendors, and all the vendors we had for the most part just stepped up and helped us. They jumped in, like they understood that this was not just like a candle, that no, this was a bigger thing. But we learned, I mean, and it's funny because like a month before this all happened, there was no internet in the shop when I bought it, right? So no internet. It was all just, there was nothing. So we had just gotten fiber installed like a few months before. The phone system at the time was like an old school like phone, like with an answering machine. Like that's it. That's all we had. So we replaced the phone. I remember we were talking. We're like, why did we invest in this? Like no one's coming. It's, you know, this is like that November 1st. Like, okay. And so when this all happened, we're like, thank God we have internet. Thank God we have a phone system. You know, we upgraded the POS, our point of sale. It's funny how we did a bunch of these steps leading up to it that we knew we had to do, but weren't sure at the time why we did them. And it all came together. But yeah, I mean, and the space, I mean, the shop is small. It's 3,000 square feet. That includes retail and production space. And the only little storage was a little cooler in the back that was falling apart that could fit 4 pallets in. And it was like kind of gross, but that's all we had. And I mean, like we had to make do of all this. And it was winter. I mean, it was wild. And we learned a lot in a very short amount of time.
What an unbelievable trip.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the part that you can't gloss over too is like, of course that was wild, but all of that was driven by your passion for the mission, right? Which at the same time you're still working through and dealing with. Like you mentioned earlier, so you have family there. Like
yes.
Still?
Yeah. We still have family there. So, you know, that was even more like very, very close to home when you're talking to people who are going through it there. So, and they were, you know, we were on Voice of America Ukraine, which was very cool. And we aired in Ukraine, and it was very cool that a lot of people in Ukraine then got a hold of us and thanked us for what we were doing and how we were helping. And that was just very touching. It was very touching.
Yeah. And that's one thing I was going to ask about today. Like the stories afterwards have to be great. You have to have countless of those.
So many.
Just conversations that you've had that wouldn't have happened if this didn't happen.
Right.
But that all make it, you know, that whirlwind you went through for a couple of years. Yeah, it was great for your business too, but it was also like, you know, you get to have those conversations, and and that has to be that level of fulfillment, I would guess, that day that you were parked in your car saying, this can't be life, you know, that day.
Yeah.
That's had to come full circle with some of those conversations, right?
Yes, it 100% did. And like, I think back to that day often. I think like how, you know, what I'm doing now is what I didn't know what I wanted to do then, but is what I was meant to do, right? And with the business and changing the whole business model to be philanthropic. And the Ukraine candle really started like the candle company's mission to give back. And so after Ukraine, we did a candle for Hurricane Ian, and we raised, like $14,000 for Hurricane Ian. We did one recently for Maui for the fires, and we raised $60,000 through a candle again. And so like really like that the Ukraine candle was the start of transforming our company's mission. And from that, we launched our Candle Screen Change, which is we donate a portion of all sales of our candle products to nonprofits throughout the year. And that really just transformed everything that we do. And it's really like been special because we've met so many people and heard stories about what our candles mean to them and how much they mean to them. And the stories are emotional and touching. And I mean, they're incredible. Like one story, this lady comes every few months and she visits, and her brother was very, very sick during Ukraine, and he needed I think it's a liver transplant liver transplant. And, was so sick. And he came and wanted to get a Ukraine candle and asked if we could say a Ukrainian prayer for him. So we all just held hands and said a prayer for him. And she had called me that he'd passed away a few months after. And she said one of his highlights was coming to the shop, seeing what was happening, and like being able to just all talk and pray together. And I was like, these stories, they go far beyond candles, and they go so much more. We just did a candle for Make-A-Wish Wisconsin. And I had a lady call, and she said that, her son was a Wish kid and he passed away, and that this candle was very special to her for that reason. I mean, the stories are very emotional, and people don't realize they do quickly that our candle shop is much bigger than just a candle shop, and like every candle really has a story, and the business as a whole is much bigger than just candles. And it's been very incredible since Ukraine to see how that's transformed and to meet all the people that we've met because of it.
Yeah. And it's fascinating because, when you're searching for a mission, you probably would have gotten there eventually, right? You probably would have gotten that and tied that to your business somehow. But to kick it into fast forward as quickly as it did is great. Yeah. But that's what it's all about, right? Like I talk to, marketing's a passion of mine too. And I talk with so many marketers about how important it is to align yourself with something you're passionate about. Because like, if you can do like what you were mentioning earlier, when you were doing that agency work, if you can do SEO and digital strategy and execution, like I call it a superpower. You have this superpower that you can,
I love that.
you can convince people to do things.
Right.
And with that comes a lot of weight. And when your mind thinks of that, if it's not something you're passionate about, it quickly becomes this internal conflict of like, should I,
right.
Is it worth it? Is it
totally
worth it? So that's fascinating to hear. So how, you said you raised $1 million for Ukraine, which is unbelievable. Yeah. Like, I don't know. How many candles is that?
Yeah. It's funny, like the count is always changing, but like it is like well over like 100,000, which in a typical year, the shop would only make like 15,000. So that was just Ukraine, right? And we still had our products to make and everything else. And again, did not have the space or the capacity to do any of that, but we...
Yeah. I noticed that on your website, how ingrained it's become in your business. I'm trying to think, you have a tagline around it now, right? It's like candles with a purpose?
Yep, candles creating change.
Candles creating change. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would guess those next opportunities probably come, like, it's fun because you get to pick the next thing you're passionate about and you get to help, right? How do you work through that process?
It's really cool. So like, our supported cause is we really focus on like natural disasters. So like that was like the hurricanes in Maui and the fires. So those kind of come when they come. But the other causes like Make-A-Wish, we connected with them last Christmas for a holiday fundraiser, and I just love what they do. Like,
it's unbelievable.
I love them, and I wanted to work with them. And then because of that, we got connected. And then it was like, I think it was National Wish Month when we launched the Wish Candle. So like, it was cool to connect with them because I knew that I wanted to support them. And then we actually had a special Wish kid come and make the candle blend at our candle bar, which was so cool. Also, like another cause we did was for the MAC Fund, Midwest Athletes Against Childhood Cancer in Milwaukee, because one of my dear friends from college, his son, he's fighting childhood leukemia, and I wanted to do something to help them. So we had a candle, and the MAC Fund has supported them and helped them. So we did a candle for them. So definitely like passion projects, which is really special. Nick and I love sea turtles. We did a candle for sea turtle preservation and rescue in Maui. So we did a sea turtle candle, raised a few $1,000s for them. So it's really cool. We really like, sometimes it's not planned, but sometimes we look and think, oh, like we want to do, like in June, it's the longest day of the year. And we were talking to this group called Walk to End Alzheimer's. We're going to do a candle for that. And just really like trying to like find causes to support that we love, that are close to our hearts. And it's really cool because people come in like, okay, where's the new candle? Where's the new support a cause candle? And it's very cool because we have this really cool following now. People that have a collection of all their support a cause candles that they've helped all these missions and all these causes.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I would have I could probably like give everything to Make-A-Wish Foundation and just be completely happy with it.
I know.
Like, it's something about watching children struggle that is terrible.
It's terrible. Yeah, it is terrible. Exactly. It's terrible.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's unbelievable how quickly it evolved to that, but I'm so glad that it did. And I mean, you must be too, I would think, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, like going viral, it's funny. We always tell people like, they're like, it's so cool. It's like, it's very cool, but like having to scale overnight is terrifying. Oh. It's terrifying. Cause like throughout all this, you know, Nick was very like, he was in the mindset of like, we have to fulfill this. We have to do this. Like, we have to make sure we can do this. And I was the mindset of like, we'll get it done. But like, there's the what if we don't, like, you know, we were giving like a 12-week lead time, which is long. I mean, it's a long lead time, but it was scary. Cause it's like, what if we can't? Like, I was always saying we will, but it's like in their head, what if we can't? Like it was very scary. Cause again, we were not prepared for any of it. And it's no joke when you go viral overnight. It is no joke. There's a lot that goes into that is horrifying.
Yeah, it's more of a blessing than a curse, but
exactly.
You get less sleep.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
That's fascinating. So, I mean, obviously, it didn't go away, right? So there's still like has to be some. You still have family there, right? And it's still a struggle. Is there anything else on the horizon? Like, can people still buy the Ukraine candles?
Yeah. Okay. That's going to be like never going to go away. That's going to definitely be always like a core part of our business. Okay. But you still buy them. We still have them. We still have, you know, sweet stories that come in from people and have the Ukraine candle. It's nowhere like it was 2 years ago, but we still have it, and people still buy them. And a lot of people, they come because they saw us on David Muir or they saw us on PBS, and it's cool. And it's right front and center in our store. We have a lot of like art people sent us, like paintings and little crafts and Ukrainian items. We have a trench candle from Ukraine from the front lines we were gifted. That's right by our candles as well. So we have a nice little area that shows gifts people brought us that kind of all go in with the mission and the story of it.
That's something that didn't pop to my mind immediately, but I bet you had a bunch of incoming mail to go through too.
Yes, we had so much mail. We had like this much, like a day. And we had one employee, Carol, and she would go through and, you know, these mail orders, and it was hard because like some of the checks weren't correct and we had to send them back, or we had to like, it was so much. And we tried to get back to all the letters, but we had hundreds a day coming in. It was wild. I remember one letter, it was like Door County Candle Company, Wisconsin. And it got to us. That was the address. I was like, kudos to you guys, the post office, for getting that here. Like, that was pretty cool. Yeah, like that's pretty wild.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic, man. So had you earlier you said Ukrainian was your first language? Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. So is that what was spoken in your household? Like, yeah. Okay.
Growing up, it was, I think, first grade when I learned English. But yeah, my grandparents from Ukraine, so we spoke heavily to my grandpa in Ukrainian. And we still speak it now. I mean, my husband does speak Ukrainian, but he says he knows a lot of words now and he can pick up on most things. But I try to still speak with my parents a fair amount, just because I never want to forget that language. But the nice thing is we still speak it a fair amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Exactly, totally, yeah.
Yeah. So have you been to Ukraine?
No, actually, we were supposed to go, which is like heartbreaking. But we were supposed to go in 2020, right when COVID hit, whenever that was. It's like a time now in life when COVID hit. Right, but when COVID hit, we were supposed to go and we didn't. So that's always something that sucks, because we really would have, before all this. But we'll get to go one day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So What's like what's on the horizon now for Door County Candle Company?
Yeah. So really, still, working with like finding different nonprofits to support. That's always something that we're doing monthly, and finding different causes. And that's very special. Like, we love doing that. And that's always going to be something we do. We launched a fundraising programs. Anyone with like a school, group, or nonprofit can fundraise on our site. So they just sign up for an account, they get a code, and then they can share it. They get a percentage of sales, and it's really easy, 1, 2, 3. So that's something we're really developing, which we love helping with fundraising and nonprofits. So that's what we're doing. And then in February, we opened a candle pouring bar at our store. So people can come and make their own special candles. So they can pour it, blend up to 3 cents, and make their own fragrance. That has been very special and very cool. Like I said, like the Wish kid Sophia made her blend at our candle bar for that Support a Cause candle, which was very cool. And the stories we've heard with our candle bar have also been very special. Like, I just had a lady like a week ago or 2 weeks ago come and made a candle she named it my love, and she said, my husband just died and I wanted to make a scent that smelled like him. And I'm like, oh God, like I'm wrecked. Like, yeah. But so that's been very fun, very cool. So that's something we're growing and expanding, kind of like our candle bar area. So yeah, it's heavily in like the philanthropy, the fundraising, and our candle bar. And a portion of the candle bar sales also go to nonprofit. So like, that's our whole thing. Like, anything we make in our store, we donate a portion back. And then that goes towards the candle bar too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, what a 3-year just wild ride.
Yeah, a wild ride is right. Like a blur in many parts. And like, I keep telling myself I have to write the stories down because I don't want to ever forget them. But like, wild. I mean, it doesn't feel real sometimes. When I talk about it, I think, gosh, I remember that day. And I remember like one story too, like Nick still has his full-time job. So like, it was like week 2, we were on the Today Show, and the store was like full of people. Like, I couldn't even walk. And I remember I called Nick and I was like, I FaceTimed him. I'm like, you need to get home if possible, because like, this is wild. And him too, like at that moment, we're like, is this really happening? And like, I look back and think like all of that, wow, did that all really happen? It was wild. It was absolutely wild.
So he didn't take like a 3-week hiatus from work
no,
or anything?
No, he didn't. Dang. Yeah. Somehow we...
And you're just walking around doing an interview on the Today Show?
Yeah, literally. Like, they called me with like 20-minute warning. So I like put my computer down, and then like, it was all wild. It was all very wild.
That's the best. You almost have to you had to go into autopilot a little bit at
times. Yes, very
like,
much so.
I mean, if you think about how intimidating it is for anybody, no matter how comfortable you are in front of a mic, to be on the Today Show or the World News or something like that.
Right.
Like, how many people are watching?
No. Oh my gosh.
Consistently doing that for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I
didn't, and I'm happy I didn't think about it, because like, I didn't like... People are like, well, what'd you wear? I'm like, I had like my hoodie. I had like, I didn't like think about, it was more just like, okay, like, let's go interview good. Like, I didn't have the time to think about, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to wear? It's like, no, and I kept telling myself, it's not about me. It's about the story. So like, for me, I kept saying, you know what, whatever, like, this is me. This is about the story, and it is what it is. And I remember like my first interview, I was like so nervous for ABC Chicago. And Nick was like, nah, and my nickname's Nah. And he's like, nah. And he's like, this is your passion. He's like, just speak from your heart. Like, it sounds cliche, but he's like, just speak about, like, you're passionate about this. Like, don't think about it. Just talk. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So that's been like my motto. Like, it's a passion. So just don't think too much about it. Just speak from the heart. And that's really what's guided me through all this.
Yeah.
It's been that.
And that's what people yearn for, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I firmly believe that. That's why we do what we do. That's why I decided to start this show, to like have authentic conversation.
Right.
Because
real.
Like, we talked about a lot about marketing today, and the one side of marketing is that sometimes things can become fabricated, or like, not fabricated is the word I'm looking
not
for, but
authentic.
Maybe like,
yeah.
You lose that. And like, when we're at a point when that comes out naturally, like it's obvious. It's like a light shining that somebody is just like really passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
So, and like, that's a big reason why I think, on top of an excellent mission, people flowed to it, because like it was very easy to see early on. That's like, this is a genuinely like passion project for someone, right?
People like, I think it was cool because I related to a lot of people and they related to me, and we all very much were like, this is just a real story. It's authentic. It's real. And I think that's what made it so cool, was that everyone saw that and knew that it was just this is what happened. Like, I thought I wanted to raise $1,000. Like, I wanted to raise, I wanted to raise $5,000. And like, we always joke, because my mom was like, early on, she's like, well, we'll match you to get to $5,000. And like, we got there in no time. And like, we always joke about that. Cause like that to me, like raising $5,000 was wild. Like, I'm like,
still matching, Mom?
Yeah, right. That's what Nick always says. Like, you're still matching. But like, to me, like, it was wild. I'm like, there's no way we could raise that much money. And it's just been such a lesson to me that like, don't think you can't accomplish great things, because I did not think, like, for me, this could ever happen. And it's just really taught me that like small actions become very big. And when you have a lot of small actions that come together, it can make huge, huge changes. And like, it sounds very cliche and it sounds very like, poetic, but it's very true. Like, I always tell people would buy a candle and say, I'm not doing much. I'm like, but you are doing a lot, because your one candle and that one candle and that one candle has come together to make this big impact. Like, every single person has a really, really big impact. And I preach that, because it's like, don't underestimate the power of that one person can have. Like, we as a group can move mountains, but one person at a time, it takes one person at a time. And that's been like, I try to like, with people who don't think they can make a difference, I'm like, oh, but you can. You absolutely can. Like, don't think you can.
Yeah, we all can. And it's amazing. You don't think about how fast the snowball grows until it gets pushed.
Right.
And starts going down the hill. And then it's like, it's out of your control. And, and you don't know which action is going to create that. You don't. And all you can do is act with intention about something you want to make happen.
You can like plan for everything. You can plan for this one thing and hope it's big and it's a flop. And then you don't plan for something and it's like, oh, okay, there we go.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's going to be.
Yeah. So I would have to think like your family that's there, they have had some like really poignant interactions with other people there, right? Like, I don't know what word to use to describe it, but they have to be somewhat famous there or something, right? Because it happened.
They live in a very secluded small area.
Okay.
So, they're very, very much in the country. But they definitely like, the nonprofit we work with, has boots on the ground work in Ukraine. So they share it a lot, like the Door County Candle Company, Ukraine Candle. And we sent, over 10,000 candles to the front lines last year for soldiers, for their bunks. And I mean, all of that was also another really cool thing, was that like our candles were in Ukraine at the front lines. Like, and we got videos from soldiers this year, and the candles were used for memorials for the anniversary of war underneath the fallen soldiers. And they're used for the bunks to help the smell of rotting and mice, because we put vanilla in those candles. And they were just thanking us for the smell, that it's something that reminds them of home, and that it's giving them light, and using it as memorial to, pieces. And that also was very intense to see that. And I'm like, wow, like our candles made it. And every single candle we sent had a handwritten note of support, love, and inspiration. We had volunteers and people were submitting. They could buy a tin candle, send to Ukraine. And we were matching, buy a Ukraine candle, we'll send one. And if we said, if you want to write a note, like we'll handwrite them. So we all, like all of us and our volunteers and staff, we wrote, every single candle had a note for those soldiers.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. That was very special too.
Yeah. And that, when you get caught up in that whirlwind and the overarching passion, that's something that quickly crashes back down to life, right? Yeah. You think about the environment, or like the mental and physical space that person is in to like light that candle to cover up the smells. And
right.
Unbelievable.
It is. Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was very unbelievable.
Yeah. So are you happy you bought Door County Candle?
Yes, I am. I still some days think like, what am I doing? But it's that November one day I think back to a lot and think, yeah, but that's the honest truth though. Like it's not, as you said, it's up and downs. It's not all up. I mean, yeah, the stuff people may see is only the positive, but the stuff that you have to go through in the back and behind the curtains is really, really hard. And I mean, I have toughened up beyond belief with all this, and it's been such a growth experience for me. And yeah, it's been a lot up and down, but so worth it.
Yeah, 100%. So back to the sea turtles for a second. Where does the passion for the sea turtles come from?
My husband's always just loved turtles.
Okay.
I mean, and me too, but he loves sea turtles, and we love Maui. It's a very special place for us. I grew up, we always went on family vacations there and got engaged there. And
oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And so the Maui Ocean Center Marine Institute, I had frequently visited with my family and Nick and I too, and we wanted to do something to help the turtles, save the turtles. And we've actually visited them when we were out there, and we went to their facility, and we were like, this is amazing. Every penny that they make literally they goes to help the turtles. And it was very cool and special. So we were like, we want to support you guys. And it was fun because we worked with people on their team, and wonderful, the wonderful locals helped us make these fragrances. So we came up with special scents of lilikoi, which is the Hawaiian passion fruit, and guava, and all these scents that they helped us create that we took to our fragrance supplier to make custom for us. And it was very cool. And we ended up using that lilikoi scent for our Maui candle when the fires happened. So it's very cool. Those stories happen, and behind the scenes of it all. And it was cool to see these rescued turtles and know yep, the money we're raising is going right here. That was very cool.
Yeah. I've thought about that a lot. How does a candle end up scented? That may be probably a silly question to you, the candle maker, but how does it
it's a great question. So we work with a supplier out in New Jersey, and so all of our scents are proprietary blends for us. You cannot, someone can't just they're not just stock scents. So they custom make everything for us. So we work with our suppliers heavily, and they recreate scents for us. And for example, Barbershop is one of our scents. And that was born because Nick and I missed our grandpas, and we had their cologne, and we wanted something like that. So we worked with them to kind of recreate that feeling of nostalgia and feeling of our grandpas. And they made this Barbershop scent for us. So they make these scents for us. And then what we do is we go through some intense testing. So we have to test the fragrance with our wax and our wicks. So we know, all our candles have different wicks. We have 8 different wicks in our whole collection, because not all candles burn the same between the scent intensity and the color intensity.
Really?
Yeah. So it all makes a difference. You want that burn to be even in a full pool. If your candle tunnels, which is, can be common, not with ours, but it can be the wick's not intense enough. So we do some intense testing that can take up to 6 months to make sure your candle has a beautiful throw. So you smell it in your whole house, that it's burning evenly. You're getting that full burn time, and that it's really just it's that perfect candle. So all of that has to do with the color and the scent and the wick. And so when we get the fragrance, we pour a bunch of testers with a bunch of all of our different wicks, and we just go through testing. We light them, we smell them, we make sure we weigh them. And so there's a lot of testing that goes into it.
What a fun task.
It's fun.
Testing.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's amazing. Could you imagine, let's rewind 6 years, and could you imagine yourself being able to talk so eloquently about candles?
No, I'd be yeah, they smell great. Okay. No, yeah. Now I'm yeah. So here, and the throw and the bonding of the fragrance and the wax and this and the temperature. Yeah. Yeah. No, I would never have imagined.
So you're saying it's possible if we could have a rooted Wisconsin candle that smells like cheese and Johnsonville brats?
We totally could, yeah, 100%. For April Fools, we were we made a joke that we were launching a cheese curd candle, and a lot of people were upset that it was a joke.
Yeah, I'm definitely kidding. I don't want a candle that smells like cheese.
Yeah, I mean, you might.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I guess it depends what kind of cheese.
What kind of cheese?
Yeah, a big part of my thought behind Rooted Wisconsin is to really highlight that we're more than Johnsonville brats and cheese, even though we are that, and lean into it really heavy. We're a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean.
Bigger than the brat.
Yeah. Let's maybe a Rooted Wisconsin candles.
I love that. Yeah, that's perfect.
That's great. But yeah, that's wild. So that part's really appealing to me. I guess you'd call it a serial hobbyist, but serial hobbyists usually let them fall off and pick new ones up.
Yeah.
I just add to my repertoire and
Totally.
just become more busy. So like that sounds really fun to me, learning about like the ins and outs of like what makes a candle good.
Yeah.
And
It's really
like,
cool.
how to improve it and stuff like that. Do you have ones with the like the flicker wicks, like the
wood wicks?
Yeah.
Not yet, but that's something we want to look into doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are fun.
The crackle.
The crackle. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite candle scent?
Balsam fir.
Okay.
Yeah, holiday scent. It's actually the first scent we made when I bought it, that we created, and the color.
Because you already knew it was your favorite?
Like, I love the scent of balsam fir.
Okay.
But like, it was the first scent I wanted to make when I bought the shop. So a little bit of all that. And then it's the first candle Nick and I made together. And the green was kind of like an oops, but it turned out like the perfect green of balsam. Like Nick was like, he did something on accident. And it's like, perfect, there it is. That's the green. I love it. And so like, that's my favorite candle because of like the memories, but also I just love the smell of like Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my personal favorite.
Yeah. So in your new house, like does the candle get left behind at work, or like I can only imagine, do you have like in your new house, will it be Door County candles burning constantly?
You know, it's funny. Probably not. Like, I think we're going to have like a few like warmers with melts in the bathrooms and maybe some rooms, but like, it's funny, like my nose gets overloaded every day at the shop, and like it's ingrained in my skin. Like you probably can't smell it today, but like I typically smell pretty heavily of candles. And like we go home and like it's candle heavy. Like we go in public, someone's like, I love you guys wear matching like perfume and cologne. I'm like, we don't wear matching. No.
This is
that's
balsam
just
fir.
Yes, it's balsam and vanilla. Like we're not matching, I promise. But like I'm definitely gonna have like melts in the rooms, but I think my nose take a little break when I come home at night. And then, go back to it the next day.
That's something people have asked you, like complimented you.
Oh, often. They think we like wear matching scents. And I'm like, no, we don't. We don't do that. I swear.
That's unbelievably funny.
Oh God. I know at the grocery store, they're like, that's so sweet. I'm like, we don't do that, but thank you. But no. No.
Oh man. Well, and then your brain goes there, and then you walk around the rest of the day knowing you smell like a candle.
Intense. Yeah. They would call Nick Vanilla Nick because like he smelled like vanilla during the Ukraine candle all the time. Like he was intensely vanilla.
Like he would go to his work and they'd call him Vanilla
Where
Nick.
he would like go like next door to get the pallets, like, oh, Vanilla Nick. And he's like, that's me. And like we all just smelled of permanent vanilla at that time. Like it's a beautiful vanilla, but we all were like, oh, yep, vanilla. It's like, that's us.
Just another check in the box.
Yeah.
Don't make a cheese curd candle.
Right. Cheese curd Christiana. No, we're not doing that. No.
Oh goodness, that's unbelievable. So then if that's your favorite candle smell, you're probably a holidayer, right? Like,
yeah,
are you a
love
big
the holidays.
person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, love the holidays.
Is that like well, it's weird after talking about different ups for an hour, but is that the normal most popular time to buy candles? Like, is that your busy season?
Yeah, it gets really busy like online fall and Christmas, but in store, because we're such a destination location in Door County, we're very like foot traffic is so busy from like June to October. That's like our busy time in the store. And people often like stock up for the holidays then. But yeah, the Christmas and fall scents. Fall is huge. Mm-hmm. And I love Halloween. So like I'm all into the candy corn candles, trick or treat candles, like the fun's like that. So yeah, that's always really popular too.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. What has foot traffic, because of all of the viral stuff, has that stayed elevated? Like,
yeah, it's definitely
or just business in general. Like, has it stayed just elevated from all of the awareness?
Yeah, I mean, it went really high, and then we went down, and now we're kind of we're still higher than we were, but we're not up there, which is good because like sustainably that is not sustainable. Like what happened? Yeah. But we're comfortable. Yeah, like we have grown, which is great. Our foot traffic has increased because people have heard about us now and heard about us on the news maybe a year ago, and they want to come visit us finally. So it's been really cool, and an unintended outcome of all of that was the notoriety like our business received, which was really cool, and that the people have continued to visit us from then, which has been really cool. I call it like an unintended outcome because it was never expected. Like that was never part of why we did it, but it's something that happened because of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you buy a business and you pretty much know you're going to be grinding it out for a little bit.
Right.
And then that grind just turned into a little bit different one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you like the newsletter probably
Overnight
quickly
different.
flew out the
Yes.
newsletter probably quickly flew out the window.
We went from, 0 and we have like 50,000 now, which is wild because we had no one to start. Yeah, right. Yeah. The newsletter doesn't go out to 5 people anymore.
Oh man. It's what everybody wishes for, right? It's what every business owner, it's what they wish for. And then when it happens, like you said, it's like, okay, it's here. And then it turns into this
the reality of it
thing.
Yeah.
Right. You can't, was the hardest part or one of the harder parts not being able to control it? Like you just have to go with it and let go with a new business you just bought? Or it seems like that might kind of be your natural state too, of just kind of go with it. But
yeah, it is definitely my natural state of just like figure it out along the way. But like the hardest part, you mean like during like the Ukraine kind of the candle thing or just in general?
Just the explosion of business. Like,
I think the hardest part with Ukraine, there was a few, one of them was like very much like we were in the spotlight like overnight. So like it was very much like we're very transparent, but like we had to be so transparent because it's like the lead times were going from a week to 2 to 3 to 5 to 12 weeks. And like, these people that wanted updates, and it was like, okay, like we need to really like up our game of updates and all this stuff. And it was like, very much eyes on us, and and like we would start going into public. Even like we were at the O'Hare airport, Nick and I, that year we were going out for a fundraiser with Razum in New York, and like we were recognized at the airport, like, are you the Kindle people? And I was like, this is wild.
That's
like people
crazy.
recognize us. Like, this is insane. So like that was like a whole new like, whoa, this is crazy. And also like dealing with all that. Like we had mostly really great people, but we had some really, really, really mean ones. I mean, like really mean people. And like, that was something for me that was really hard to learn, that like I needed to like get really thick skin for this, because like to me it's like I'm just doing this to make a difference and help. And like those calls and some of those emails we got were so hurtful and so intense that it really taught me that I had to like really toughen up and get thicker skin.
mm-hmm.
One of like the meanest calls I got was someone got one candle instead of 2. It was an accident. Like it happened. We were so busy. And so I called to say like, we're going to send you a new one. I'm so sorry. And this guy told me like on the phone, he's like, if you should be ashamed of yourself and your business. If you couldn't handle this intensity, you never should have started this to begin with. Like the call was so mean that I hung up. I started crying. I didn't make a call for 8 months. Like I was like, I'm done. And like that to me, like I say that story because people like, I don't think often realize like the up and down you talked about, like there's the highs, but like the lows are really low and they're really hard. And a lot of people don't see that stuff that happened. And it was very hard. I mean, we got death threats because of it, because we got some death threats, some calls. We had just some intense social media, comments. And like, it was hard for me, especially at first, because I'm like, but all I'm trying to do is help something close to my heart and that. So like that was really hard for me. I grew a lot from that, but it was very hard to get there because I've grown thicker skin because of it for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I would guess that like there's people that hold, differing opinions, like those,
Yep.
I mean, that exists in our society.
Totally.
Right?
It's
like
the world.
People can't have in general, we don't talk enough. We throw darts, but we don't
hide behind the keyboard
enough.
And throw darts. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you probably knew some of that was going to happen, but like the person buying your candles calls and says,
right.
You sent me 1 instead of 2. And then and they're buying it for a good cause. But people are wild.
Yeah, I mean, in some one email I got, they didn't want to wait, and they're like, and I said 12-week lead time. They're like, well, they're like, the candle pretty much lost the purpose at this point. And I'm like, no, like it, like some of these messages, it's like, and it took me a while. Like Nick and I stopped getting those emails to our inbox. We hired someone to literally respond to emails because it was taking such an emotional toll on us that I was like, we can't do this. Like it was wrecking me seeing all these. And again, now like 2 years later, like it's definitely like I've grown from it. And like, but in my mindset at the time, I'm like, but I'm just trying to do something good for the world. Like I'm just trying to help a cause. Like, how are you not seeing that? And again, it's the world though. And like, you know, and people would tell me like, we should have expected this. I'm like, I didn't, because I didn't think this was going to get so big. Like I didn't, I didn't think it was going to be so big.
$1,000.
Yeah. Right. I'm like, I didn't expect any of this. So how was I supposed to be prepared for this?
Yeah.
But it's been, I mean, it's been a lesson in everything, honestly. I mean, it's been such a lesson. I've learned and I've grown so much from this, which has been great. And like, I try to like best I can, you know, share like what I've learned about this. And I try to also on my LinkedIn, I try to share a lot of stories about like being a woman in a male dominated industry, which is manufacturing. And I've gotten a chance to speak to some really cool groups like women in supply chain at UW-Madison. That was really cool to talk about supply chain during the Ukraine scandal, but also like being a woman in manufacturing. So like it's cool, like all the things that have come from this. I've gotten to talk about going viral to marketing groups and like done some keynotes, and I really love to speak about it all. But I always love to mention the bad stuff too, because I don't want people to have a false sense of reality with it, because it's like there's definitely bad stuff too, and like a lot of good, but and I focus on the good, but I just like people to know that the real part of it has rough stuff too. Like not to think like it's all just the happy-go-lucky, like everything's great. Like there's the behind the scenes that people often don't see, and I want people to know that it's there. And like if you go through it, like know that that's going to happen, but also like it's not all just we're doing great.
Yeah, I mean, even in something as positive as what you did, right? And I think that's a really, you are a example. You're an example of the drastic positives and negatives from social media, right? Like
yeah,
your positive outcome and what you were able to accomplish by going viral is awesome. And then at the same time, even past social media, like you said, emails and stuff, like the ability to throw those darts for people, and you reference hiding behind a keyboard earlier, that happens so much
all the time.
And that ability, I think, changes the dynamic of humanity, and we're seeing how it's like developing.
Totally.
And it's,
yes.
It's impossible to prepare for.
Oh,
because,
yeah.
like
100%.
You enter this scenario from a place of like, man, maybe I can help. You know, I just bought this business. Maybe I can help. I'll try a little bit.
Right.
And then you end up, you know, taking this barrage of disparaging remarks that. Yeah, so I think you said earlier that after that call, you didn't do another one for 8 months.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not doing this. So like, I ended up not returning or taking calls anymore. It took me, like I said, 8 months to be able to like be like, okay, you know what? No, I need to get back on this. Like, but yeah, it took me that long after that like horrible call.
Yeah.
And I censored it. It was much ruder than that. But like, it took me a while after that call to really gain that thicker skin. So I'm thinking people are dying and you are mad because like, I just couldn't, I'm like, I can't get your logic. Like I can't stand behind it. I can't understand it. Right. It exactly. And I think that like took me a while to get to the point of like, you know what, like that's just going to happen. Mm-hmm. And you need to like use that and just, you know, thicker skin, thicker skin.
It reminds me, recently I saw a viral video of a baker, and she took a call of a potential customer in like, she was laying in bed. It was like, I think she says in the video, it was like 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night or something. And this person needed a cake made for the next day. And this lady's a baker. And the call kind of, if I remember right, it was kind of like a time lapse thing where she did the classic like customer service voice for a while, and then finally she just like does what every single normal person wants to do and just completely flips out.
Yep.
And I think I love that we're in the place right now of like, I went to the comments in it and everybody was on the baker's side
for it.
And that wasn't the case 10 years ago, probably. No. That wasn't the case. The customer was always right mentality, blah, blah, blah. And finally, I love that we're to a point where like, nope, Like,
Yeah.
some people are assholes.
Exactly. They are.
just the way it
And
is.
you know what? Like, and sometimes you just need to speak up for yourself and you just need to
Yep.
say it how it is. Cause you
Yep.
know what? As you said, there's sometimes no logic behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. Zero light. Like, you're buying 2 candles to support a cause. The money already changed hands.
Right.
99.9% of the people that bought that candle weren't doing it to have a candle
No,
in the house.
Exactly.
They were doing it for the concept. And once you pay for it, like you said you donate $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that sets the chain into effect.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're going to get another candle. It's going to come.
Exactly.
You can light it on fire. Yeah.
You have a roof on your head, and you can have a phone to call me. Like, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's unbelievable. That's all I could think of when you were telling that story.
yeah,
is
it's
like,
true though.
so many times just people like rooting for that person now. And that pumps me up.
Agreed.
Because
I totally agree with that.
yeah, customer service is a great thing. Like, we want, like, being a business
Of
owner, you
course.
get into business to keep your customers happy, and we try to meet unmet needs.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you know, there's a line that can't be crossed where
Exactly.
people need to remember that everybody it's a human on the other end of that phone.
We're all
Like,
humans.
could
right.
you imagine? I've thought about this frequently. Like the call center job, right? If someone's at depending on industry, if someone goes to work and takes those calls for 8 hours a day, like, first and foremost, my applause to you.
Yes,
Because I don't know how
agreed.
you do it. Second, like, they see the armpit of humanity.
They do.
On a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and they have to take that and somehow try to go home and then like not be like take that all personally, which is really hard not to. Like really hard not to. Yeah, agreed. I mean, I applaud them because that. Oh gosh.
So how'd you get over it? You said you have thicker skin now. How did you do it?
I don't know if I really have like a special like thing I did. I think I just slowly like just got more confident in myself, and you know, it kind of just seeing all the good helped a lot. But also made me realize like you said, like there's always going to be those people in the world, and like you just have to like speak up towards them and not, you know, hide from them. And I think just that mentality and kind of knowing that like, you know what, it's not personal and you have to speak up for yourself. I kind of learned that. I remember I had all of my news interviews were awesome. I mean, like the reporters, the anchors, everyone has been amazing. I had one interview that it was very, you know, I spoke up in this, like the person came to try to interview me and he's like, okay, so like, what's this thing you're doing? And I was like, oh, yeah, I talked about Ukraine candle. And then he made a comment like, well, why are you supporting this if there's like other issues in the world? Like, why this? And I remember at that moment, I went off in a very professional manner. And I was like, do you even know our story? And I went off and I said, you know what? I'm good. Like, I didn't even need to finish that interview. And they never aired it because in that moment I was like, you know what? Like, I don't have to do this. Like, you're clearly not understanding the mission behind this, the point. You don't really want to be talking to me right now. Like, and then I remember that moment happened and I was like, no, but I can. And like, I can deny service. Someone said F you to one of my volunteers and I called on the phone and I said, I canceled your order.
Yeah.
Because you don't speak to people that way. And you know, someone was mean to one of my employees once, and I did, and I stepped in, and you know, I was like, we don't speak to people like that. And like, it took me a while to get there because I wasn't like that before. But I think just like growing and learning that, like again, 99% were amazing people that just like you want to hug and say I love you. But yeah, it took me time though to get that thicker skin, and I mean, I'm better having that, but it's doesn't happen immediately, at least not for me. Took a while.
Yeah.
Took a while.
Tumultuous path. Yeah. And there's always there's always the things that people can bring up that'll be the thing that's like, okay, that's no thick skin anymore. Like,
right.
let's do this.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's, it's wild to, you know, going back to what you mentioned, like you started with something just like you thought you're passionate about, you know, like there's probably something that's got, there's somebody in the world that would have something negative to say about saving the sea turtles. Too.
Of course. There will always be someone like
the
that.
The sea turtles eat the fish that I
hate
catch
them.
off my dock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the way the world turns. And
totally.
I'm glad that, you know, because I think there's people that end up going the other way and shy away from it, right? And then just like, nope, don't like that, not gonna do it, not gonna deal with it.
Exactly.
And that empowers those people to like, it's like a, you know,
it is
like the mushroom from Mario. They just like grow a little bit. They're like, okay, the next time they're even
bigger
meaner.
and bigger and bigger. Right. Exactly. That's a great, I like that. Yeah, exactly. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So I'm glad. Well, it's awesome. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your
thank
story.
you. It's been awesome. I love your podcast and how it's just authentic stories and people. And it's been a pleasure. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Wish the best for Door County Candle. You're going to keep crushing it. I know that.
And Rooted Wisconsin Candle coming its way.
Ooh. All right. I love it. Thanks.
Thanks.